Howdy.
It's been a while, quite a while, and a lot of people have been asking us where we are, what's going on, why we haven't been making videos, a lot of stuff, and life has been busy and life has been a little bit crazy, and honestly,
sometimes life hasn't been fun this winter.
Yeah, honestly, every time we think, hey, we're going to go make videos, something happens and kind of knocks the wind out of our sails, so we end up not making videos, but we'll get into that here in a minute. So we just wanted to give you an update on the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's been good, there's been bad, there's been ugly. So anyway, we are headed on an adventure, and we'll tell you about that in a minute. And it's me and Kylie and Lydia. They're coloring and drawing. So I had to make a list because it's been a lot of stuff going on. So if I'm looking at my phone, that's why it's a list. So I guess we'll go with the bad stuff first, because I'm an eternal optimist. I try to be, and I don't like to be the bearer of bad news. So if I have to give you bad news, I'm going to do it first, and then we can go into the good stuff. So and there's been more good than bad. I'm looking at the list. There's been quite a bit more good than bad, but the bad has been bad enough to be pretty frustrating and upsetting and disappointing. So the last video we did was in November, right after Thanksgiving, I believe, and it was showing you that we got our 2A2A2 jerseys, Sadie and Cookie. And so, what has it been? I didn't look at my dates, I'm sorry. It's been about a month and a half ago now.
Yeah,
probably about
like
6 or 8 weeks ago.
Maybe
Can't
2
remember.
months ago.
Maybe. We had one of our heifer calves from the Tarantays. We went out to the barn one morning, and she was dead. She was just laid out dead. No symptom, no signs of anything. And we were like, okay, well, sometimes calves, you don't know what's going on, so we didn't think a whole lot of it. I mean, we were very upset and disappointed, but it was like one of those, well, okay. So that was on a Sunday. The following Thursday, we went out, and one of our A2A2 jerseys, Sadie, was dead. Just no sign of anything. She had been fine, perfect appetite the night before, milked her, great, no symptoms, nothing, and she was just dead, with no signs of anything, just gone, which obviously was extremely upsetting for us. We were very, very upset and sad, so we went ahead and took her to Virginia Tech to have a necropsy done, which is basically an autopsy for animals. They said it could take up to 2 weeks for the results, so we were like, okay, we really wanted to know, because obviously we had the heifer die, so then we had Sadie die, and we were like, well, maybe there's something going on that we need to know about. So then we hadn't heard anything from Tech. They were still just running tests or whatever. And the following Thursday, so a week later, we went out, and one of the Tarantays cows was dead. Completely different pasture, never even together, never in contact. Pastures aren't next to each other or anything, just laid out dead. Same thing. The night before, she had been knocking other cows out of the way when we put out hay, so she was fine, no symptoms, no signs of anything, just dead.
Completely healthy, and then the next morning dead, just like Sadie.
In the meantime, we had found out about another place that does necropsies that was less expensive, and there were, and so we thought, well, we'll take her to this one, because we need to know. And this isn't our cow, this is the guy we're leasing, he belongs to him. So we were like, what is going on? Obviously something's going on. We had 3 die within a week and a half. So we called her to the other place, and within a week, at first they were just completely baffled. They were in contact with Tech. Both of them were saying the same thing. We don't know what happened. Well, then finally they figured out that she had died from black disease, not black leg. It's related. It's Clostridium neovi. I'm saying that probably wrong. It's Novyi, I believe is how that's spelled. It's weird. So, and all the vets said it different ways, and they said it different ways 3 times, so I don't think anybody knows how to say it properly.
Yeah.
So what that is similar to black leg, and it lives in the soil, and if they ingest it within 2 hours, it's fatal. Within 2 hours, they die. It attacks their internal organs, and there's very little sign or symptoms of what happens to them, and that
it's 100% fatal.
It's 100% fatal. Sheep are very susceptible. Cattle doesn't affect goats and horses, from what I read, as much. It can, but not as much. It is very rare to have this type of Clostridium on a farm. It's usually in a feedlot. The farm we are on used to be a dairy, so that would explain why it would have been in the soil there, because there was a high concentration of cows. But it's been dormant for years and years, and usually in the wintertime you don't see it. You only see it, in the summer, spring, whatever. But the conditions this year have been just right with the drought and all that. So that wasn't, so we assumed the heifer calf died from that too, because it was the same thing. Obviously we didn't have any crop seed on her because she had died prior to these two. So that was what the conclusion was for Sadie and for the beef cow.
Yes.
So as a result, we ended up having to go ahead and vaccinate every cow with the 7-way Clostridium shot. We are really big on being natural and not using anything we don't need on our cows, just because we don't want that in our meat or in our milk. So we err on the side of not doing things like that. But with this, we know it's in the soil, and so all of the cows had actually been vaccinated for this, but it's one of those things that they need a booster every year or so, and they hadn't had them in a couple years. So we went ahead and had to go ahead and vaccinate all the cows for that. So that was a little bit, just the whole thing was really frustrating and hard and disappointing. Just after all that, so 3.5 weeks ago, we were like, okay, we're on the upswing, everything's going better, and
started to make a video.
Started making a video that day. Derek was making a video, and he rolled out a round bale going down the hill. We will drop them at the top and roll them out, and so the cows can eat them. Well, the round bale went down the hill and it hit a rock and bounced over and ran over one of the calves. It was Samson, the twin. Our twins were Samson and Delilah. Ran right over him, and the twins had stunted growth, so they were little. They were 5.5. They're 6 months old now. They're like 5 months old, and he weighed about 120 pounds or something.
Yeah.
He was not very big, and so broke his leg. We were, very upset. The kids were all, devastated.
These two calves are going to be our pets. They're not ever going to be butchered. They're kind of, I guess you call them pasture ornaments, because
they've been bottle fed.
They've been bottle
fed. The poor
fed.
things.
They've had a hard
they were
life.
Poor when they were born. They were orphaned. Finally, their mama didn't make it. It just was really we're just like, oh no. Well, I'm like, wait, let me Google this, and I Google it, and apparently they can cast legs on calves, and they do really well. They heal well. So we loaded up and hauled Samson to the vet and had a cast put on his leg.
Yep.
So that was, we were like, okay, because we were thinking we were gonna have to put him down, and we didn't have to, thank goodness. And
before this, we'd given Stevie away.
Oh yeah, and then Stevie was one of the other ones. He was one that had been sickly and was dying. We had done everything we could for him. He was really not well. We literally prayed over him and
propped him up with a cinder block to keep him from laying flat out.
Yeah, he kept laying flat out. He was thrashing, like he was not, he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
Prayed over him, left the barn, came back out.
Like 30 minutes later.
30 minutes later, and he was up nursing on his mama, and it's been fine since. So that we consider that a miracle. I don't know how you feel, but for us, yeah, definitely. And so we had actually ended up giving him, a friend of ours had gotten a bull calf and it didn't make it, and we felt bad for them, so we were like, look, you want Stevie, because he was also stunted growth, and he just, from where he had his issues, so we'd given him away. Well, the kids were disappointed because they had bottle fed him too, but they understood. They were happy to give him away, so they were really sad,
because he was going to be a pet.
He was going to be a pet for those people. So fast forward to last week, we were going to go get alpha hay, and of course everything's on quarantine, so we haven't been leaving the house, the kids haven't been out, and we were going to go to a farm and pick up alpha hay. So we were like, we'll take everybody, because it'll all fit in the back. We were getting like 7 bags. We're like, we'll put it in the back of the van, get the kids out of the house, go for a ride in the country, it'll be nice. We get 5 minutes from home, if that?
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes from home, get on the interstate, van dies. We pull over on the shoulder, dead. So we had
It'll start and immediately die. Starts, immediately dies.
So the neighbor had to come pick me and the kids up. Derek and Jack stayed. Somebody came with a tow truck, company. Thankfully, it was less, our insurance covered it. And so we were like, whew. But, so they got hauled home. Turns out it was the
mass airflow sensor.
Mass airflow sensor, because those vans have a flaw where the water can actually, when it rains and stuff, can actually get into the air filter. And I guess
so the air filter was saturated, which we didn't know any of this until last
Until it
weekend.
happened.
Yeah, the other week. So the air filter was saturated, which then pulls a lot of moisture into the mass airflow sensor. So I could unplug the mass airflow sensor, the van would run, but it would just throw a lot of codes. So I took the mass airflow sensor out, left it on our dresser in our room for like a week, put it back in.
Going anywhere.
Yeah, put it back in yesterday. Started the van up and let it idle without the sensor plugged in, just to pull air through it and try to dry it out. And I'm hoping and praying this is going to work. Just to see. Well, sure enough, we plugged it back in, and the van's been running
Got
fine
a new
ever
air
since.
filter.
Put a new air filter in it, so instead of $130, it ended up being just like $20 to fix the van.
Yeah, that was a definite blessing. So that turned out okay. So we were like, okay, things seem to be on the upswing, and then 2 days ago, we realized 2 evenings ago that Delilah, the other twin, because we had them up in the barn together since Samson broke his leg. We've had them together so that they're, because they're really close. And Delilah was bloating, and she was, at that point, she had gotten really bad. And so we did everything we could. We gave her baking soda drench. We went by, we did all the things, tried to get the air out of her belly, and
tubed her a couple times, got gas out every time.
But once they go down with bloat, it's really hard to get them back. If you catch it early, you can sometimes save them, but unfortunately, we just didn't get to her in time, and so we ended up losing her, which was really, really tough loss. Again, yesterday, or that was Friday, today's Sunday. I was on that day, I was thinking, we were talking about making videos, and then that happened, and it was like, it kind of knocks the wind out of your sails. You just don't, feel like, because it's one thing to do videos and get on and share what you're doing when things are going well and it's exciting, but when you have bad news and things to share, it's like
we try to be positive and encouraging, because we love farming, we love homesteading, and we want to represent it well, and we still love it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and this year has been abnormally.
It's just an abnormally hard year. We've had an abnormal amount of death on the farm this year.
We had an unexplained death last summer when the cows first came. One of them died, and it was unexplained. She just was dead. It was one of those things, and we never. Then the man releasing them from, he's like, cows die sometimes. So we didn't think a lot of it. Now we realized that it had to have been the Clostridium novi, because it's in the soil, and it just happened to be that she was the one who ate some last year or whatever. So we've had We've had like a bunch, 5 or 6 cows die now total out of everything, and then we've lost 3 calves.
4 Tarantays.
And then Sadie.
So
that's 5.
Yep, and then 2 calves.
Yeah, 2.
7 cows.
2 of the Tarantays were old, and that was, he knew they were old. They were gonna, and
they were in need of replacing.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna be able to rebreed them anyway, so that was expected, but it's still. And then the other 2 we believe were the Clostridium novi as well as Sadie. So we lost 5, and then we lost the 1 calf who was born to one of the mamas that had died. He didn't make it. We realized we don't think he got colostrum. We don't think he was nursing. By the time she brought him out of the woods, it was too late. She had hidden him, and we assumed she was feeding him because she had hidden him and was a good mama, but her udder was really distended, and I think he just wasn't. By the time we realized it was too late,
she was one of the ones that died.
They ended up dying. She was an
older cow.
So that was an awful lot of talk about negative stuff. We're like 14 minutes in or something. So let's get to good stuff. So good thing number 1, our van is working. So that's awesome, because we have 10 people in our family, so we have only 1 vehicle that fits all of our family. So we've got to have it. So that's good. Last year I started a bunch of plants and seeds, and I had the little greenhouse you buy, the little metal frame and the plastic covering. Well, we put it in the barn for the winter, and it is just like falling apart. The plastic completely deteriorated. It's crazy. So I looked at plastic covers to replace it, and it was crazy. I don't remember how much they were, but they were expensive. And I was like, I was trying to figure out what to do, because I really needed to start seeds. And then Derek was like, well, I have that paneling. What is that?
It's corrugated plastic clear. It's for the big hoop house greenhouse, but we had a few pieces, and what they were used for, I don't know. But
yeah, we're not using the big hoop house yet because again, we need to order the plastic for it, and it's pretty expensive, and we got to have a permanent spot for it and all of that stuff. So we were like, we'll just hold on and wait, give it another year before we do that or something. So, so we had enough scrap lumber and everything we needed, so Derek was able to build me a greenhouse. A little greenhouse for starting seeds for free.
Yep.
With stuff we already had, so that was awesome. Excited about that. And then I started seeds again. I was like, I'm not going to do that many this year.
At least you started them in cells.
I started them in little 1-inch cells instead of in cups. So we have, they take up a lot less space. But I did end up starting, what did I say, 265 tomatoes or something, and 130 pepper plants.
A lot.
And we have them all labeled, but the labels have gotten mixed up. So yeah, hopefully we have them in the right spots, but I'm not 100% sure that they're actually labeled right either. So there's that. But we're excited, and they're sprouting. We had tomatoes starts that are about this big, and a few peppers sprouting. We're really excited about that. And then this past week, the people that had Stevie ended up having they were going to be using some land, and then they weren't going to use a neighboring land. So we ended up, they called and said, hey, we're not going to be able to keep him. Is there any way y'all can take it back? We hate to ask. And the kids were like, yes! So we had actually gone and gotten Stevie back before we lost Delilah. So that was a good thing. We were able to get him back, and the kids are happy. And now he's in with Samson because Samson still has to stay up because of his leg. He can't be out with the cows. He gets his cast off in a few weeks. But so that was a really good thing. We were really happy about that. We planted cabbage, bok choy, radishes, lettuce, kale, and collards. We direct sowed all of that. It was kind of
we were behind.
We were behind. We didn't start them early. We didn't because I didn't have a greenhouse, and it's been a rough winter, so we were just kind of like, So we went ahead and direct sowed a couple weeks ago. Some of that stuff is sprouting, some isn't. We knew it was going to be a hit or miss with that, so we'll just see how it goes. But we did go ahead and plant that stuff. We've been milking, and Cookie has been giving a lot of milk. We're still milking Clary, the cow we were given last year. She's like a Holstein Jersey cross, we believe. And so we've been able to use her milk, Clary's milk, to feed the calves because we still have bottle calves. We only have 2 at this point that are on bottles, and only one really needs to be, the other one needs to be weaned. But
Clary gives about 2 gallons a day, sometimes a little more.
Yeah.
And Cookie is averaging 3 gallons a day, sometimes a little bit more.
So we're getting plenty of milk. So we've started making yogurt, which is awesome. We've also been making cheese. I had bought some cultures, but a box of cultures only comes with four cultures, which is 4 batches of cheese, and it tastes better cultured. We've done it without culturing it and just using like the cooked mozzarella method, and it's okay, but it's not anywhere near the flavor. So then I was like, well, what can I use as a culture that I have or can make or whatever, because it's too expensive to keep buying cultures. And I looked up, and you can use yogurt to culture your cheese. And since we've been making yogurt
Could be spelled that way.
Are you drinking my coffee? He is drinking my coffee.
I just saw it sitting there, and it was calling my
pink
name.
Cup drinker. That's my coffee. Anyway, we've been experimenting with using yogurt to culture our cheese, and it's worked really well, so it tastes really good. So we kind of are honing in our cheese. It's only one type, but it works really well. It melts, it tastes good. We can put it on spaghetti, we can put it on burritos, whatever. It's good for everything, or just to eat. So we're pretty happy with that. We got some kefir or kefir, I know it's spelled different ways, grains. Somebody I know was really nice and mailed them to me, gave them to me. They're dehydrated, so we have to go through the process of activating them. And we're that's the plan anyway at this point this evening. So we're gonna should have kefir going really soon. The neighbor gave the kids a go-kart. It's a little one. Derek tried to ride it. It was pretty funny.
I can drive it.
He can drive it, but he's a giant, and I was like,
Jenna says,
you look goofy in it.
Yeah, that's not the word you used.
I was like, you look dumb. That wasn't very nice. I was like, you look like a clown in a clown car.
I told her I wish it was big enough for me because it's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's not super fast. He had to turn pretty down.
I had to govern it back because it gets pretty fast if you don't.
Yeah, so they have that. He goes out with them. They're not allowed to ride in it by themselves, but he's been helping them, and they're having a good time with that. I'm like, I don't want to watch. I'm just like, no, I don't want to watch. A lot of people have asked about Jack's truck. You know, he got his truck last year. It's been about a year since he got it. And the
crank is bad. We got it up, got it running. We were on the way to the dump with it, and it locked up. And it's a bad crank. So we are going to, as soon as we can afford it, get a crank for him. We could get this one turned, or we can buy one for like $300. And I would kind of just, I think, rather start with a brand new crank, because I've pulled this engine. We've torn it down. This will be the 3rd time. So, and we've got it torn down. We're just ready for the crank. We need crank and bearings.
And yeah, we want to make sure it's going to last a long time. So by getting a new one, we know we got it's good, it's right. We don't know if the other one can get turned, but you never know if it's actually going to work.
We're done pulling this engine out.
And Jack is anxious. Of course, he'll be 17 next month, so he's anxious to get it on the road. He hasn't done a whole lot of driving at this point because it's not him. He drives around the farm and all that, but you know, it's the other people out on the road that I'm more worried about.
Yes.
But you know, he has to be 17, so we do need to get that going for him so he has his truck. The chickens have finally started laying eggs because they hadn't been, and they're laying enough to keep up with our family, which is awesome because they weren't. And our camera battery died, so we're down to one working camera battery. That's what happens. We need to get some more, so we're charging it, but I'm using my phone. So anyway, where are we? Oh, I have the list on there too, so I'm looking into it now. So our chickens are keeping up with us, and we think we're getting some more layers that are actually laying. Like a dozen from a friend, so that'll be awesome. We'll put them in our ugly mobile chicken coop that we had built a while back. You know, the ugliest thing we've ever built. That'll work great. Plenty of room for them. Then we have ordered 100 meat birds.
Yep.
100 meat birds. We've been wanting to sell meat birds and stuff for a while, and we just haven't done it.
The goal is we want to make as much of a living off of the farm that we can. So we're just trying to come up with ways, you know, to make money from home so we can work together as a family as much as possible.
That's the plan. So what we were trying to figure out how to do this. And plus right now with the way things have been with the grocery stores and people not being able to find things, we thought, well, this is also a good time to do this to help people get some meat in the freezer. Of course, we have to wait for the birds to get here and then raise them for 8 to 10 weeks, but it's just one of those things. And I'm like, we didn't have, because of everything going on, you know, Derek's still working, but not as much. So we were like, we don't really have the upfront money to buy the meat birds and buy feed for them. So then I thought, well, what if we put it out there on Facebook for our local friends? If anybody wants to commit to a specific number of birds, we'll have them do a deposit on them, and the deposit will be enough to pay for the birds and buy feed. And so it worked. We got I forget how many people or how many chickens. It was enough for us to be able to order them, and we ordered some for us too. And then we have extras. Hopefully, we'll have extras so that if anybody wants to buy more, or somebody that didn't get in on it at the end, we'll be able to buy some. So it worked out perfect. We got the deposits, and we ordered those birds. They'll be coming the
22nd, maybe?
Yeah, some end of the month.
23rd of April.
A few weeks from now. So we were like, all right, so that's perfect. We're getting them, and then we're actually going to make money. Like, it's really exciting. We're like, this is legit. We're doing this. We also are getting pigs. The guy has them. They're not quite old enough to be weaned yet, so we found a good source for pigs. So he's reserved them for us. We're going to, again, I'm going to do the same thing once we figure out for sure what we're doing about getting people to put deposits and see who wants to buy a whole or a half or whatever, you know, I think. And then on top of that, we are going to then have some process and do like some sausage and cuts that are USDA inspected, and with our own sausage mix, so that there's no nitrates, all that, and then that way we can sell our pasture, non-GMO, soy-free pork cuts direct to consumer. That will be in the fall by the time they're ready, but we're getting this off the ground, and then hopefully by fall we'll also have some beef ready to sell, and we're going to do the same. We're going to process the beef, and then the plan is to process the beef and sell cuts. I don't know. I know some people have asked us about doing halves and wholes. We haven't really discussed that too much, so we're going to see if that's an option as well. But we know for sure that if we do cuts, we can worthwhile for us. So we just, and our goal is to sell things at a fair price where we're making money to make it worthwhile, but we're also offering, 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And then as far as the chicken and the pigs go, it's all pasture-raised, non-GMO, soy-free. So really high-quality meats, but at an affordable price, because we understand being on that end where you want to buy really quality meat for your family and then not being able to really afford it much. That's why we raise a lot of our own food, because it's more affordable that way. And obviously not everybody can raise their own food in that scale. So
Not everybody wants to.
and not everybody wants to. A lot of people don't want to. So for us, this is an opportunity to actually get into the point where we are doing poultry and beef and pork. And then, of course, hopefully come May, we'll be able to get some turkeys and do some pre-orders for turkeys for Thanksgiving and Christmas. That would be the other goal. And on that note, the CoolBot is doing great. I want to update you on that. Our walk-in cooler is awesome. We've used it a ton. Neighbors have used it a ton. It's just, and it's only added, what did we say,
About $12 average
to our electric bill a month. Totally worth it. Way cheaper than paying a butcher.
Yes.
So we're really, really pleased with that. It's one of those things that's just
It's so useful. It's like having a gigantic refrigerator
it's a huge
whenever
blessing.
you need it.
Well, and the thing is, like with the pigs coming and with making cheese and all that, we're able to put like leftover whey in the bucket, because I use some whey, but there's a lot of leftover whey. I can't use it for everything, so we're able to put whey in the buckets. We'll be able to keep milk and put it out there, and that way when we have pigs, we can feed them with the stuff on our farm too. It's great for the pigs and the chickens too. We can give them some of it, so we can store foods out there. When we've pulled out like roasts and things, or that we wanted to smoke, like pork roast, we've been able to put them in the cooler to thaw rather than in the fridge, because we have a very small fridge in the house. It's not a big fridge, it's a single wide trailer. It doesn't have a big kitchen, and there's a lot of us, so we kind of have to thaw a lot of meat at once. So this has offered us basically another refrigerator. We've been able to put stuff out there and thaw, so then we can cook it, and it's not taking up all the space in the fridge, especially with all the milk we're getting. Jars take up space, so we're juggling and working it out. Then Derek also is going to do some work for somebody and trade for a sickle bar and a bush hog for the tractor, so that was really exciting. So we actually have already got the
Sorry, I'm trying to look over your hand in my mirror.
Sorry, I'm blocking the mirror.
It's okay.
We've actually already got the bush hog and the sickle bar. They said go ahead and come get it. He was supposed to do some of the work for them, but with quarantines and things, they didn't want necessarily everybody working right now, just trying to keep non-essential people not really going out too much. So he's gonna, once all this clears up and quarantines are lifted, he'll be able to go do that work. But we're excited we got that, and that's about it now for today's news. Oh, we did actually, it's kind of related, and I don't remember if we talked about this at what point. There was a whole group of cows that did not calve, right?
Yes, 7, I think.
7 didn't have calves this year. And then we had the bull, Little Joe, that Angus bull came. And so we ended up hauling all the cows, the 7 and then the bull, off to somebody else who wanted to do the same thing we're doing. They're leasing them from the guy we're leasing from. So that worked out. Mr. Mike, yeah,
You might meet him in a minute.
So we hauled them off. So that got some animals off the land. Took pressure off the land. And this is a really long video, guys. Hopefully you're hanging in with us, but there's a lot of information going on. And that was another thing. Our neighbor gave us a ton of hay, which we ended up having to feed hay 2 months early because of the drought. And then after that, we were able to purchase hay from somebody else we know for a really, really good price. And that was a huge blessing. So we were able to keep up with the hay this year, because we ended up needing it a lot longer than we thought we would. So that was like huge for us. And so now one of the cows we thought was bred came back in heat about almost 3 weeks ago. And so we told Mr. Mike, and he just bought a Tarentaise bull, because you remember he didn't have a Tarentaise bull at the time, so he ended up bringing his Angus over to breed the cows for the next year's breeding. Well, he ended up buying a bull, so we're going to go get his bull and bring it home, and that cow, Miss Alyssa, should be coming in any day, so he'll be here in time. And then Cookie had our Jersey calved in mid-January, and she's just just came back into her first heat cycle this past week, we think. And we're pretty sure. And so with him coming, then once she comes back and he can breed her. So we're pretty excited. We've been wanting a Tarantace Jersey cross anyways. Hopefully she throws a heifer calf because we would be really excited. And hopefully he's A2A2. We don't know if he's A2A2, but Tarantace are supposed to have a high percentage of A2A2, so we'll see.
Either way, it'll make a great, if we get a heifer, it'll make a great milk cow because the Tarantace have 4% butter fat.
Yeah, their milk is very comparable to Jersey milk.
They produce a lot of milk.
Yeah.
That's why their calves grow so well. So it'll make a great dairy cow, and if it's not a heifer, then it'll make a great beef cow because the Tarantace are very beefy, stocky.
Yeah.
You'll see.
Even crossed with a Jersey, they make stocky.
Yes.
So. Anyway, I guess that's about it, and we'll show you this new bull and everything. It might be a separate video actually because this one's gotten so long. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with us and catching up with all of our doom, gloom, and happy.
Yes.
Sorry to share bad news again, but it's life. It's real. It's what happens sometimes on a farm. You just have a really bad, hard year. We know that this year was hard, so we're looking forward to